Morning, folks. Brian here at Geomagnetic Earth Watch on Thursday, June 1, 2023 on our planet. Hope you're all well this morning. I'm going to take off for the coast, British Columbia, for a few days. And I will try and stay in tune with what's happening on our planet and everybody. So first I want to say I enjoy reading everybody's comments on some of my posts. For example, the last one about how weak our magnetic field has to be before any flips. I think about 99% of everybody is very, very respectful of each other. There was that 1% guy, though. Get in your hole, Al. Unfortunately. David Diamond Meridio of Oppenheimer Ranch Project. He was actually in my group. But unfortunately, I had to send him flying over Ben Davidson's galactic current sheet into the face of one of his supernovas, so he's no longer with us. So sad. Anyway, I enjoy reading everybody's comments. Perhaps a little talk before I go away. Please take a look at my last video of the massive, heavy chemtrail spraying over the Gulf of St. Lawrence, which is between Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. No spraying anywhere else. Obviously, it has to do with what's going on in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. The question is it for the better or for not? Anyway. It gets pretty overwhelming with information and visualizations, rhetoric, and orchestrated distractions. Easy to lose sight of truth and coming events. And to prepare for all these things just over the horizon. Also because of misinformation, false assumptions, and outright frauds and con men. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in our world and on our planet, which are two different things. First, I am a firm believer in biblical wormwood. You can call it Nibiru, you can call it Planet X. NASA in 1979 called it Planet Xena. And I also see the current worldly events and clearly the structure of the beast system being constructed. All these things which must happen before the biblical wormwood reaches us. Now, everybody has a timeline based on their own religious belief and studies, or being an independent researcher, to once arrogant in their self-propped up assuredness, to outright con men. And as I said from the very beginning, pay attention to how our planet is responding, its inhabitants, and the actions of our governments. And you have to decide for yourself who you believe and who to follow based on your religious beliefs, your ability to do some critical thinking, perhaps with a little aged wisdom, and looking at the events over the past 3 years. Now, I have been maintaining that 2025 is the year, or by 2025, Don't pay attention to Agenda 2030. Don't pay attention to Agenda 2050. That's all part of the distraction to let you think that you have so much time to prepare. I think not. Now let's talk a little bit about the geomagnetic excursion. But let's also consider what may be causing it. Now you can find many articles online about Planet X. And again, in 1979, NASA gave the name Planet Xena, X-E-N-A. 1979, Pioneer 10 was launched shortly after Pioneer 11, after the radio telescope found Planet X. The reason for Pioneer 10, Pioneer 11 was to triangulate its orbital approach. Planet X is not going to hit us. It doesn't have to hit us. It just has to come close enough for its gravitational and electromagnetic influence over our planet and the others to have devastating effects. And again, I have to align my beliefs and observations and from other sources, along with scripture, to believe in the approach of that large celestial body and my observations on how planet Earth is responding now and what the agencies are trying to conceal from us. For example, after the Turkey earthquake, I use global incident maps on my computer. I once found it very truthful. Up until the Turkey earthquakes, the 72 average, number of earthquakes was around 950. It is now less than 400. They are not reporting half the number of earthquakes on our planet. The NASA satellite feeds are being selective on what to show and what not to show. So John Moore, the Liberty Man, Mr. John Moore is a former Green Beret Special Forces intelligence analyst, PSYOPs, then retired to become a homicide detective. You can find his information under the Liberty Man. Also, several interviews by John Adams of Brighteon. He still maintains contact with high-level intelligence officials and Navy officials. Anyway, in one of Mr. John Moore's articles in the year 2006, he wrote about how planet Earth will respond to the approach of Planet X. And again, it doesn't have to be a direct hit-on. You know what? It just has to come close enough. If you bear with me for a minute. This is planet Earth, the compass. This is planet X, much, much larger, with a much stronger gravitational magnetic field. Okay. As its orbit comes closer and closer and closer, in my opinion and the opinion of many others who are much smarter than me and have access to a certain intelligence, it is commonly believed that orbital approach is every 3,600 years approximately. Others will pinpoint it down to 3,657 years. The last time was 3,657 years ago. So anyway, in that article he wrote what would be the effects on our planet, how our planet would respond with cataclysmic earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, ocean inundation across all the coastal areas of our planet. And then the cover story the government had to come up with to explain these earth changes. That cover story, of course, was the man-made global warming scam. He also suggested in that 2006 paper he wrote, it is easier to impose martial law if the population is already under lockdown. And as he suggested, let's say, I don't know, from a pandemic. If you create a situation, if you create a virus, you create a reason to impose lockdowns and other restrictions. Now this, on the other hand, that's a totally different subject on why. So now we have the World Health Organization pushing with the changes by May 2024, given the sole authority over all countries, or all countries that sign on to their changes. Please keep in mind, members of the World Health Organizations are your governments. Justin Trudeau, for example, and Chrystia Freeland are strong supporters of the World Health Organization. They are members. They are the ones who are going to decide yes or no. And giving that authority to the single person, the Director General. Given the authority to, and it does not have to be a pandemic, it does not have to be an endemic. They can say, well, there is going to be, therefore they will have the authority to impose lockdowns on whatever country they so decide. They will also have the authority to order you to take this. A number of other people are doing a lot of good videos on it, including Neil Oliver and Dr. John Campbell of England. By 2024 in preparation for 2025. Now, what other ways could they impose lockdowns? I've been saying this for quite a while. You just wait for the climate lockdowns. You just wait for people like Justin Trudeau to use the Atlantic Canada wildfire situation to impose it countrywide. It's not going to be a lockdown at first, but travel restrictions. The Premier of Nova Scotia has already issued a complete ban on all travel and otherwise activities in all forest areas, period. That's what's going to be coming for Canada, folks. If you want to travel now, such as I have to see family, to see dying family, I suggest you start doing it now. Because this is just, it's all working up into the next set of lockdowns. In my opinion. And again, I hope some of my viewers in Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and surrounding areas ask your local politicians, show them a copy of my video. Why is there massive spraying between Newfoundland and Nova Scotia? If you know anybody in the media during the news conferences daily, and I'm sure their hands are tied, they are muzzled by their chief editors. They're not allowed to ask certain questions. But here's another thing. These aircraft, I would estimate 2 dozen, have to be taking off and landing from somewhere. And that somewhere has to have massive amounts of chemical containers. Check your airports. Try and get a close-up look. Are they loading large canisters? I don't think they're coming from places like England, France, or Spain. I think they're coming from Newfoundland, maybe. Because the trailing is starting in Newfoundland and it's terminating over Nova Scotia. Anyway, it is actually prudent what the Premier of Nova Scotia is doing in banning all activity, use, fishing, camping, cabin use, picnicking, travel, everything. That is prudent. And if you paid attention to their news conferences in the very beginning, the tone in their voice, the shaking in their voice, they are scared shitless. They're frightened. Anyway, I'll try and stay on top of things. You have to do the same. Okay, you have to do the same. It's your area. Start snooping around. Watch the aircraft. Is there an excessive number of aircraft flying over your head? What are your skies like now? What are they going to be like tomorrow? What are they going to be like tomorrow morning? Are you going to have a sudden change in weather? Anyway, that's it for now, folks. Got to get going. Later.